Hello and welcome to the West Hartford Town Council Virtual Candidate Debate, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Greater Hartford and West Hartford Community Interactive. I'm Libby Sweetek, a member of the Greater Hartford League of Women Voters, and I am pleased to be joined here in our event by Jennifer Evans and her staff at West Hartford Interactive. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation by citizens in government. Tonight's debate is being brought to you as an additional debate. We had two candidates who were not able to attend the originally scheduled debates. They will be joined by candidates from all the other parties. So we have every party represented here tonight. Each candidate will be allowed 8 minutes of cumulative talk time as the questions are presented, and there will be a 2-minute closing statement for all of them. Before we went on air, the order of response was drawn by lottery, and the person starting first for questions will go last for closing. Let me introduce the candidates. Going first will be Mrs. Roni Rodman from the Connecticut Party. She will be followed by Mark Zydanowicz, a Republican, followed by David deHaas, a Libertarian candidate, followed by Ben Wenograd, the Democratic candidate, and finally, our Aaron Sarwar, a petitioning candidate. Did I get that right, everybody? Everybody has any? Okay, sure, good. All right, the league has provided a screener, so we want our audience to provide questions via the question and answer period. Questions should be general in nature, not directed at any one party, and limited to policy, town policy. We also have timers for all the candidates who will help the candidates keep their time straight, and they will be alerted as their time runs down. Okay, let's get started. First question goes to Mrs. Rodman. How do you think the one-time COVID money coming to West Hartford should be used?
Thank you very much for having me, and that is a fantastic question. So the one-time money, excuse me, let me start over. The money that's coming in for COVID, I believe, should be used on a couple items. One, our schools are in desperate need of air purification systems, and with the amount of high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, that would be a fantastic use of the funds. Another area we can use the money for is increasing the amount of police we have on our force. It has been decreased recently, and it would be wonderful to have a more robust police force in our area. And then the other thing would be we really need to work on our infrastructure in West Hartford. Something as simple as the road diet that we have now has made a huge impact. We see what that could do, but we need to keep the infrastructure, the roads, the sidewalks. It's constant maintenance, and we need to make sure, especially because the weather patterns that we have now, we can't have them erode. We need to constantly be making sure that they're safe. They're safe for our cars, they're safe for our bikers, they're safe for our students who are walking to school. Our sewer systems also are over 100 years old. And although the money would not begin to fully correct the issues, the money would be a great place to start. So again, when we get the COVID money, one, education, obviously to work with the schools, making sure that the air purification systems are in. Two, increasing the police force. And three, making sure that our infrastructure is being maintained. So that's what I think we should do with the COVID money.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to chime in? Ideas for the COVID money? Mr. deHaas.
So the last debate, I put a lot of emphasis on helping out the small businesses in town that were hurt from the pandemic and the lockdowns. I also just want to add that the residents that couldn't pay rent or couldn't go to work and make money to pay rent. So I want to help the small businesses and the residents. Also, I just want to say I'm hearing a lot about using COVID money for infrastructure, and honestly, I'm a little disturbed by that thought, because it's almost like, okay, COVID happened, now we have extra money. It's a little weird. We should help we should use the money to help those affected by COVID, right? So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a comment? I can't see everybody.
I like to pitch
Mr.
in.
Sarwar, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I'll pitch in there. Well, so COVID has obviously been massive. My family's in the restaurant business for 33 years now. In my family, I have multiple restaurants. So, we were definitely affected by it. I believe that the COVID funds should be used. I do believe in infrastructure should be spent on infrastructure because that pays in the long term. I don't believe in just, I mean, what Mr. deHaas here is saying, I don't believe in that, just giving people like checks. Helping people there's unemployment. The state did a lot. A lot of my staff were still on unemployment up until somewhat recently. So I think infrastructure and just basically doing the things that we know we need to do to just take a little weight off of our existing taxpayers. The general fund is pretty strapped as it is. A lot of our taxpayers don't want to see an increase. I think the best use of it would be in infrastructure and things that we've just been kicking down the road that need attention, such as our facilities. And people are now talking about joining Connor and Hall, which I'm completely against. But I think there's things that we can use it towards. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Mr. Zydanowicz, you had your hand up.
Thanks. And I just want to take the opportunity too to thank the League of Women Voters, WHCT, and Jennifer and her group for this, and that Aaron too is for being out there away from the family and such on service. And I want to thank you for your service as a 25-year retired military officer. I just want to say thank you. And the other 3 candidates for doing this twice. So thanks for taking the time out of your days to do this. West Hartford's going to get $25 million over 3 years. As part of the Board of Ed, we got about $10 million of that, and we've got a plan. COVID affected the children quite a bit. So there's a plan for that in place, and I was part of that plan. But we need to spend it strategically. We need to help small businesses. Those are the ones that really were affected. When we drove around here during the times of the pandemic, places, it was a ghost town, quite honestly. And those businesses are really, really were hurt. The other part that we can help our businesses or West Hartford is, if you're familiar, there's a budget, town budget, and then there's a CIP budget, which is a capital improvement plan. Those are one-time costs. Say, for instance, paving the parking lot at Hall High School. That's a one-time cost because these is a 3-year spending platform. So you don't want to carve something out of the budget and then have to reintroduce it after the COVID money is gone. So if you look at the CIP plans, they go out 7 years, I believe. They go out farther than that, sometimes 10, depending on the project. But it's a long-term planning, between 5 and 10 years of planning. And those are one-time costs, roofs at KP, things like that. That could help as well. And then we have the sewer and stormwater issue here in town as well. I know they're not COVID related, but those are the priorities. Small businesses, the CIP plan, and spending and such. Those are important items that need to be addressed as soon as possible.
Thank you. And Mr. Wenograd, I saw your hand up too.
Thank you very much. And I agree with Mark, both in thanking the League and WHC, but also in honoring Aaron's service. I certainly second that sentiment and thank you. We did speak about this at the last debate. I do want to just point out to people watching that unlike last time, we do have the town manager's recommended spending. It is up on board docs, which is a system. We might be changing it, but we've set up to try to make it as transparent as possible for people to follow what's going on. And the manager has issued his own. This was presented at the finance meeting last week, chaired by my colleague Leon Davidoff. And I think a lot of what people are saying is what's reflected there. I think we've got some innovative ideas. I think there's certainly a lot of money put into the infrastructure. The stormwater issue is obviously at a critical level, and we need to get started on those investments. And again, as Mark said, we don't want to put holes in our budget. We need to actually is one-shot money. We need to spend it on things without an expectation that we're going to keep on spending that over time. Otherwise, we build a hole in our budget. So I'll end there, but I'll recommend people to go to that. One thing, those recommendations are not final. There is in that business assistance as well as assistance to nonprofits. We're looking for more community input in that. So there will be meetings coming up, and we will want to hear back from the community to nail down where that money is going to be most effective for our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually going to chime back in real quick.
Sure.
Ma'am. So yeah, just again, thank you all for being here. I was going to use this say it at the end, but yeah. So just in case for everyone wondering, I was out of town with the Connecticut Air National Guard. I was tapped for the Afghan refugee mission, and I'm actually the product of immigrants. It was actually quite amazing to welcome folks into the country. So that's what I was doing, and I was not here for the debate. I'm a captain in a Connecticut Air National Guard with the 103rd. So thank you all for being here, and Mr. Zydanowicz, thank you for your sacrifices. But thank you all for being here, and the League of Women Voters for putting this together.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's move on. Digital access. Obviously, the pandemic highlighted some holes in everybody's networking. Does the town have sufficient digital access for school children all the way through seniors, as it is such an important part of the way we do business? And this question will go to Mr. Zydanowicz.
Well, thank you. That's right up my alley. Because as a fiscal conservative, I've never shied away from putting money into the classrooms when it needed to be spent, and it was going directly to the classrooms, and it was going to benefit the students and teachers. We as a board and I agreed that those are the kind of resources that we need to spend money on, and we have been spending money on Chromebooks and computers for kids to take home. Students to take home. Even during the pandemic, there wasn't a child or student that was ever denied a computer to be brought home. We jumped through hoops to make that happen, and then those individuals that didn't have the resources to have Wi-Fi at home, we embedded certain computers with the Wi-Fi in it already. So it was just it was free for them, and they can access the web free. We continue to do that. We continue to have a plan of continuous improvement. And all the children were able to have devices throughout the pandemic, and continues today. And even the resources to help, they call it a pipeline, the amount of information that comes in and out of our networks, that has increased as well. And throughout town, the infrastructure to help that has been upgraded as well. Some may not know, but part of our savings as a town, our information technology is shared both with the school and the town. So those resources, when we update them through the school systems at each school, the town is getting updated as well. It's something that, again, a continuous improvement model. Will we ever have the best? No, technology moves very fast, and we keep up with it. So we're right at that cusp, and I think that we've done a great job, but we continue to do more, and we always will have to.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to comment on our digital readiness in town?
I'll chime in on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually have siblings, one of my brothers, my little brother is actually at Conard right now. And I have to say that they did a phenomenal job. The schools did a phenomenal job. He was telling me, and actually have a bunch of, I just through his friends and everything, like everybody got computers if they needed it. And they did get cellular hotspots is what Mr. Zydanowicz is talking about. So it worked through a cell signal. I thought it was phenomenal. And I don't believe there was any digital, I don't think there was any divide, because the schools did such a phenomenal job. I think we have great access to it throughout the town. I mean, a lot of businesses in the center have free internet. The schools do at this point. I mean, I think the town does a great job. But that's just my 2 cents for it real quick. Just wanted to chime in and say I agree.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Mrs. Rodman.
So I'd like to elaborate on that. I have to agree that, last year I had one kid at Hall. I have one at KP. I'm actually the PTO president over at KP Middle School currently. And the schools did a phenomenal job with the Chromebooks and being able to adapt and teach during COVID with Wi-Fi. The one thing I would add to this is, yes, I think our town is doing well. However, I do think having Wi-Fi, especially around the businesses, Elmwood, the Park Road. I actually am a small business owner in Blueback and in the center. If there was Wi-Fi for everyone, I think that would be fantastic. It would prevent each individual business owner from having to offer Wi-Fi to each of their customers. And the minute you came into West Hartford, we would all have the same Wi-Fi. I think that's something we should work towards.
Well, can I chime in on that? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think we already have Wi-Fi. So Comcast actually builds it into our business modems. There's free Wi-Fi at all the businesses. So you actually don't even have to provide it. A lot of the town has some kind of internet service at home, and through that internet service, they can actually tap into free Wi-Fi throughout the center. I actually my phone gets bombarded with free Wi-Fi when I'm in the center. But just throwing it out there, I do think there's a ton of infrastructure. Our town is heavily, we have a ton of infrastructure in this town. But I do see what you're saying about the town offering it, but I would be opposed to it unless there's a grant or something in place, because that's just the way what I believe.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Can't see everybody. Okay, Mr. Wenograd, we'll take you first. I have to keep flicking my screens. I'm sorry if I don't see you right away. Go ahead.
No problem. Thank you. Just appreciate the comments. We do have that is part of actually the town manager's recommended budget for the ARPA money. There is some money designated in his view towards public broadband, exactly what I think Ronnie is talking about. And just in terms of the digital divide, I agree. I think we've done well. Excited about how our libraries deal with some of those issues.
Okay, and someone else had their hand up. Was that you, Mr. deHaas? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to bring this up. This is not an idea that the town government should necessarily do, but a couple years ago, I was staying in Kansas City, and I learned about there was an incubator for business that had a huge fiber optic infrastructure. So a lot of people mention Wi-Fi. This is just like an alternate idea on topic, but an area like an office building where that and I think the private sector can do something like this, but to have fiber optic infrastructure in the building, so like companies can deal with making apps and the kind of stuff they do in Silicon Valley, that would be very appealing for the greater Hartford area. So you guys all addressed the schools and having access to the internet, but I just wanted to throw out another idea that I was always fascinated by the idea of having a building where you could start a business and you have like the fastest internet in the world. So I just thought it was pretty cool.
Hey, may I chime in here again, man?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I keep chiming in.
You
So
can.
my background, I'm a mechanical engineer. That's what I did at University of Hartford. I did Cisco networking when I was at Conard High School. Got my college credits at Conard High School. I'm sorry, guys, but the town doesn't need to be doing this. The private sector is doing it for us. There's fiber throughout town. If you want fiber in a building, I have apartment buildings. I have fiber literally running to the building. I mean, if you want to pay for it, it's like an extra $20 a month. You can get fiber right to your modem. Just throwing it out there. I hate when I hear about the town. The town does a lot. I mean, when I was in high school, I would laugh at the new computers because we'd get new computers almost every 2 years. And, we're not there to play Call of Duty. We're there to use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. I was actually in the Cisco networking class, which is probably the most extensive computer class, which they don't even offer anymore. And we never use those computers to their capability. And they still don't. I mean, the graphics department, that's like one room. But it's just I'm just throwing it out there. I know I support the schools 100%. I'm grateful for what the schools did for me and where it got me. But just got to throw it out there. We're always talking about like the schools and technology. The schools we give our kids everything in the schools. We do a great job, and I don't think we need to be pushing for any more technology as it is, because we already do a phenomenal job.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rodman.
I have to completely disagree with Mr. Sarwar. I think that it's about equity. Not everyone can afford Wi-Fi. Not everyone can afford it. And the other thing is, if we do offer it within the town, it will be the same for everyone. It will be safe and secure. And I think that's the problem. You know, you don't want to keep, I can't go on Comcast Wi-Fi to run my business. I can't go to Xfinity. If you're going through town, if we have one general Wi-Fi for everyone, it allows everyone to get online. It allows the kids who, you know, if they're in the center and they can't text home because they're not connected to Wi-Fi and they need their parents, they can text their parents. So I really think that it's a town-wide issue, and it's something that we should be able to offer everybody who comes into West Hartford.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I'm gonna chime back in here.
Okay, it's your time.
I have staff that, you know, some new immigrants. They literally. I grew up with almost nothing. I grew up in a house with 20 people in 44 St. Charles Street. I'm the product of undocumented immigrants, and I'm proud to say that nowadays. I couldn't say it 20 years ago, but yeah, I believe it's out there for everyone. Like we're at a point today where if you don't have it, I mean, everybody should have access to it, but it's just, how much are we going to do? I mean, how far are we going to go? But yeah, that's my 2 cents. And on top of it, as a business owner, businesses should be paying for their internet. But you know, I believe what you meant was Wi-Fi for the public, not for businesses. I think you threw that in there, but yeah, as a business, you have to have your own internet.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I have one more question on the topic, and not really sure if I'm staying on with it or not. 3G is going away next year. And for those people who have older phones or even cars that communicated by 3G, that whole network's going to go away. Is the town ready for that? Is the town infrastructure advanced enough that they can handle the elimination of old technology? I'm not going to pose this as a new question because it's still on digital. Anybody like to comment? Anybody know? Nobody's had the experience. I had to have my car updated. I have a 6-year-old car, and they made me come down and update it. It took them 2 days. That's how hard it was just to switch out a router or whatever it was in a car. Mrs. Rodman, you have your hand up. Is that intentional?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got to lower it. Apparently I need help with the internet, so.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's only my personal experience, and I wanted to know if the town was ready for updated technology, and my screen just went crazy.
I'm going to, I have not dealt with that issue. I'm going to take an informed guess that our staff is well ready for it. We have incredible leadership in town. I'm talking the professional leadership. That's not a self-praise. The professionals that we have running our town, we'll take credit for hiring them. But they do a fantastic job. They are very much, ahead of the game on issues like security, which you certainly have had discussions about with the phishing, the various hacking and all that. I'm sure it can happen anywhere, but I know that they've been very proactive in avoiding that sort of thing. And I have no doubt that we're ready for the changes in technology.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this next question, we will start with Mr. deHaas. The transfer plant, waste to energy plant in Hartford is scheduled to close in June. Is the town's recycling plan adequate? Recycling fees, tipping fees have been going up, and they're projected to go up even more. Should we consider alternatives? Start with you.
I'll just admit straight up, I'm not too familiar with the details on the recycling plan, but I did bring this up at the last debate, and it's just an idea. And I actually, now that I think about it, I do love this idea. But we should definitely work with the Hartford County when it comes to recycling, and even the sewage problem and the storm drain problem. It's all infrastructure that it's old, and it's the whole area is like that. So so a way to lower cost could potentially be, hey, let's go over the mountain to the Farmington Valley and talk to those towns. Let's have a joint system, way to do it. It's collaborating with our greater community. And I think that's the best way forward in the future when it comes to doing local politics.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a comment?
Ma'am?
Yep. Let Mr. Zydanowicz go first.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So thanks. You know, one of the reasons that the fees are going up is because China has refused to take a lot of our waste products. If you're ever driving down 91 South, the airport road, you used to see these blue trains. You don't see them there anymore. They were stacked with cardboards and recyclable items. I come from the dairy industry where we had tens of thousands of half pints of milk, just half pints of milk. After school would let out, we'd have to collect all those milks, and we developed a process to recycle that cardboard. That's no longer feasible anymore. So we're in it because there's a refusal of countries to take our waste product. So what do? This isn't really, it is a town problem because fees are going up, but there has to be some resources looked at on a national level. Like, how do we recycle? I can remember back in the day where they were talking about making fleece jackets out of liter bottles. You know, what do we have to do to get there as a country? Why should we rely on another country for our recycling? It's a much, much bigger problem than we're going to solve here in West Hartford. I just want to give some background. So, you know, again, it'll come back, you know, with a lot of people getting together in a room trying to handle these problems, not just one side, but a lot of people. And you can handle and address these issues with a collective and collaborative decision-making process. And as a town, I think we need to do that. We need to come up with a viable way to treat our refuge.
Okay, thank you. Someone else again. Mr. Sarwar, you want to chime in again?
Yeah, so it's basically the same. What I was going to say is a national problem. You know, until the demand increases, we're going to continue to see the prices skyrocket, and until that demand increases, you know, there's not going to. We're going to have a hard time figuring out. We have to figure out a solution, but it's going to be really difficult because the demand just isn't there right now. And it's unfortunate that there's two plants there's actually two in Hartford. There's the incinerator plant, which is also in grave threat right now, and then there's the recycling facility, which they just sort recyclables there. But yeah, both of them are in trouble right now. So yeah, it's definitely a big problem and something we got to look into and see if we can figure something out. Actually, in one of my responses to your question, that when you had sent in, I submitted the answers, and I said that, you know, the COVID funds, I think this would be something that we could allocate resources towards, just for our long-term success.
Okay, Mr. Wenograd.
Thank you. So this is the committee I'm chair of, and it has certainly been a topic that we have spent a lot of time talking about. One thing we did do is a couple of years ago, we hired a recycling coordinator to really help inform the public about what is proper recycling. Unfortunately, we have aspirational recycling going on in town where people put way too much into the blue bins because we all feel better about recycling. And in fact, if we're not sure, if you're not sure, don't put it in, put it in the trash. Frankly, at this point, the cost of the town isn't really much different. It's better to recycle it, but only for recyclable materials. And I'll take the second to say, please do not put plastic bags in the recycling. Even, you know, if you put your recycling into a kitchen bag and then throw it into the recycling, that's useless, and it basically ends up being pulled out and put into the trash. So we need to do a little better job at that, all of us. And one thing we are doing, again, one of the ideas for the ARPA money is to help rebuild and a transfer station and work down there to allow sort of greater avenues for recycling. And that is one of the things, but everybody is absolutely right. It is largely a global problem and one that we're going to have to struggle with over the next few years.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Rodman.
Thank you. So I'm actually on the Environmental and Conservation Committee for the town, and we had a whole meeting just on this subject. And I understand that it's a global issue, it's a national issue, but we're running for town council, and what we can do in the town is important. I didn't know what I could and could not recycle. And at our last meeting, we were talking, and it would be something very simple, is getting little decals that you put on your blue bins, so you know what you can put in there and what you can't put in there. And if it's something simple as that, then when they get to the recycling plant, we're not going to waste their time, we're not going to waste their money, and everything that we recycle will be able to be recycled. So, the question, I think, is national, but we need to bring it down locally. And that's what we can do locally to make it more efficient in West Hartford.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mr. deHaas.
I really just want to ask, do any of the candidates have any thoughts on my idea of collaborating with the neighboring towns? I mean, am I the only one? Is that like a horrible idea? I'm kind of curious if anyone has any thoughts.
Fair question. How about regionalism? No one want to take a stab?
Let me just say, I think that you're right to look at it. And the question becomes on any particular case whether or not that's the right thing to try for. We tend to be big enough. We're practically a region of ourselves on most of these issues. So, for example, when we were required by DEP to do better street cleaning, the MS4 plan, which involves capital expense for buying street cleaning trucks, as well as having crews that go out and do that work of working on the stormwater and everything else. One of my first thoughts was, well, can we share it with another town? And it turns out that what we were buying was plenty of enough work for us in town. We wouldn't have had surplus. But for smaller towns, I think for the Farmingtons and Avons of the world, they certainly should be doing it and sharing those. We do obviously some sharing in terms of some police. There are plenty of police functions that are shared regionally. There are other things as well, but I think it really is a case-by-case analysis. I don't think it works in trash pickup. I think that is something that we're probably big enough to do on our own, that there wouldn't be big efficiencies from sharing, but it's the right question.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Carroll, you had a question?
I just want to make sure that we give the time shortly because we have one candidate that has already used up 6 minutes of time.
Okay. Shall we do that right now and then we can finish?
No, you finish this question if there's anyone else that
Mr.
wants
deHaas,
to
you want to go
answer.
back? Did you have more comments, Mr. deHaas? No? How about Mr. Zydanowicz?
So, here goes to bipartisan support. I agree with Ben completely. It is a good question. When you're in a room, collaboration and asking those questions are important. And, maybe the decision is, we are too big. And I agree that we probably are because, I was just in Wyoming and West Hartford is bigger than any town in Wyoming. I was shocked by that. We have the resources to do it, but those are the right questions to be asked. And I agree completely with Ben on that one.
Okay. Shall we do a time check?
Yes.
Carol, we'll start with you.
Okay. Mr. deHaas has almost 5 minutes left, 4 minutes, 45 seconds left.
Okay. David, how about you?
Yes, Mr. Zydanowicz has used about 6.5, so that would be about 1.5 left. And Mrs. Rodman has used 4.5, so that would be about 3.5 left.
Okay. And Nina?
Yes, Mr. Wenograd has used 5 minutes, 50 seconds, so that would be 2 minutes, 10 seconds left. And Mr. Sarwar has used 6 minutes, 5 seconds, so 1 minute, 55 left.
Okay, so, well, we still have a little time. And I would caution both Mr. Winograd and Mr. Sarwar, we haven't been able to ask you, the first question, or your first ability to answer a question. Okay.
Pretty much in line.
Let's continue. I think we have a little more time. This is for Mr. Winograd. Do you have any concerns for West Hartford regarding the impact of potential redistricting in the 2020 census?
No. We're certainly elected townwide. That's really an issue for our state reps, who are fantastic. But I don't think we're likely to lose political clout, and we've got 4 fantastic representatives and incumbents, and I'm sure they'll continue to be effective, even if they do have slightly different lines.
Okay, how about money? The census affects more than just representation. It affects federal monies that come our way.
Again, obviously something to look at. We did gain population in the last census, which I was grateful to see. And so I think we'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Mr. deHaas.
Oh, this is another issue I'm not that familiar with, but I do remember a few months ago I saw on the mainstream media, because I watch it too much. I don't know why I watch it, but I watch it. But they were talking about Colorado. They have a bipartisan or a nonpartisan commission that does all the redistricting. And I'm not sure about Connecticut, but I think, I think everything should be nonpartisan, but that's just me. But I think that could definitely be nonpartisan for sure, because I think a lot of states have that issue where the partisanship gets mixed up in redistricting to a certain party's advantage. So Connecticut should definitely have a nonpartisan gerrymandering commission and policy.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Yukon Branch property. This question is going to go to you, Mr. Sarwar. I'm going to admit that I don't even know what the status of it is. What should be done with that property?
Well, yeah, that's actually a big one. That's one I think about a lot. First and foremost, I'm completely opposed to dense housing there. I do not want to see that. There's a lot of people talking about it. I know it's already happening in back rooms, and I hate the secrecy. We don't hold. We have no idea who it's sold to. I believe it's already sold. I believe the company that had purchased it has sold it, and I believe there's some folks who know who it's sold to, but they're withholding information for now, and they don't really even have to tell us. That's what I've been hearing. I've been hearing it's sold. So I will do everything I can to prevent dense housing from popping into a single family neighborhood. I love the open space. I love the green space. I would love for someone to purchase it and maybe turn it into like a small sports type thing. Like, everybody's always going to Farmington or one of the other big, like the FSA or something like that. I think that would be phenomenal in West Hartford, especially with all the kids we have in youth soccer and all the sports clubs. We actually have a shortage of fields in West Hartford. So I think that could become a real generator for the community and strengthen the community. But that's my 2 cents on it. It's a real shame that we don't hold the key to what it could really be sold to anyone. But obviously there would have to be zoning changes. So I do not want to see dense housing there. I do not want to see anything like that, especially for the community, the traffic. We're losing our village charm. This was always a city with village charm, and that's part of the reason why I'm running. I want to see that village charm. I want to see that continue.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have an idea for that property? No, we're good. We're all going to wait and see what happens. Mr. deHaas.
I'm not saying the government should do this idea. I actually do think if we could get our tax rate under control and have the residents have more money in their own pockets, then the community can get together and invest in something like this. But I'm very passionate about sustainable agriculture. That's a lot of land. We could do vertical farms there. We could grow food there. We could honestly, not just that location, we can find locations throughout Greater Hartford. I do think we could end hunger in our area, like completely. I mean, but maybe it's just me, but I definitely think it's possible. And I think people are kind of slacking when it comes to solving these issues.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, I don't see any other hands. Okay, we have time for maybe one more question. Should I consult with our technical
You know
people?
what, Libby, Ronnie.
Roni Rodman
Oh, I'm
wanted
sorry, I
to
didn't see
speak.
your hand, Ronnie. Sorry. You're muted.
You know, the fact of the matter is we do not know who purchased the property, so it's hard to speculate. In a dream world, it would be fantastic if it was a sports facility, something that everyone could enjoy some more green space. But I think the most important thing is we need to make sure that whoever purchases this keeps those baseball fields there, because that is part of the property. And so regardless of who owns it, we need to make sure that that those fields stay within for Little League.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wenograd.
I agree with Ronnie on the ball fields, and ultimately we're all waiting and seeing what we hope will be a responsible developer, and then we'll consider it through the zoning process, which we're all running to be on that, to be part of that process. And as always, we'll take into account and have to take into account public interest as to what we would approve.
Okay. All right, Jennifer, how are we doing on time?
We have about 10 minutes left.
10 minutes? Well, that gives it, them total time? Do we have 2-minute wrap up?
We have time. We can extend if you need to.
Okay, all right. Let's try one more question. This is just going to be a yes or no. Should West cannabis? Okay, we're going to start again with Ms. Rodman. I'm going to ask everybody on this one because nobody's going to get away without this one. Cannabis. Should West Hartford have a retail cannabis shop? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Wenograd.
Yes, 2.
2. Okay.
That's our size.
Mr. Zydanowicz.
No.
Mr. deHaas.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Sarwar.
I've never partaken, be honest, and I'm not allowed to take it, and I'm opposed to it. But I believe it's here to stay. I think it'd be wrong to say no.
Okay, you're breaking up a bit.
I would say yes, and but
Okay.
we have. Can you hear me now? Did that come
Yeah.
through?
Yep. And the second part of that is by statute, I believe, because we are a town of greater than 50,000 people, we need to allow space for consumption. Anybody have any ideas of where that space should be? Should it be town-wide? Should it be delegated to a specific area? Mr. deHaas.
Okay, so I said this at the response to on the website, but like so the first question was, should there be a retail? Yes. And then the whole thing with spaces, I don't want our town government to be involved in that. Like, that's just going to be a waste of money. Like, we don't do that. Let the retail space do that, right? So
that's not their role. By state statute, we have to allow anybody, whether they buy it in town or not.
I'm confused. You're saying the state statute is saying that the town literally has to provide a space?
Yes.
Well, then I should probably go talk to the state government about that. But yeah, okay, if it's a statute, well, we don't have a choice, right? Okay.
Well, we can decide where it goes. I mean, they can, the town, as I understand it, can say, yes, it's an open space, probably with some regulations near schools, or it can designate a park or, a specific area for consumption.
I'm curious what other people think maybe a good place is, but I just like the government forcing us to do that. It's going to cost money. It's like weird, but okay.
Other comments? Mr. Zydanowicz.
So, listen, there's a lot of unknowns. This is new for Connecticut. If you think that we're going to get a boatload of tax funding from this, that is not the case, and you're only kidding yourself if you think so. It's a federal tax. You're not going to get any local taxes other than what you would from any other business. So I say we don't need to lead in this as far as having a retail space. We could follow. Okay, so it's legal as of July 1st. We don't need to lead on this one. We can follow. There's a time to lead and a time to follow. Let them sort these things out and then go from there. As far as a space for consumption, I say we have to work with our local legislators to get that out of the legislation, because that's not something, we can't go around in alcohol's been legal for, you can't just drink open beverages anywhere you want. You can, in a closed bar you can, and certain zonings, but this is not the time for us to lead. This is time to follow. Let other towns make those mistakes.
Okay, I saw Ms. Rodman's hand up second. Go ahead.
I have to disagree with Mr. Zydanowicz. I think that West Hartford is a town that we need to lead, not follow. I think that, he did mention that there are rules for alcohol consumption and smoking. If we are thoughtful, follow the rules, towns with over 50,000 people have statutes that they have to follow anyway. So I think that if we do this, we see what other states have done, how they've done it successfully, but also, use common sense and make sure neighborhoods are safe. But, if it's going to be legal, we have to make sure that people can do this. But again, we need to make sure that it's followed, just like smoking and alcohol, and have rules that people need to follow. But there will have to be areas in which you can do this. But, again, we're going to have to follow the statutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sarwar.
Yeah, so my biggest concern with this is, you can tell people where they can smoke, but does that really mean they're going to go there and smoke there? My big problem with the legalization is people are just smoking it on busy sidewalks in West Hartford Center. I don't know how, I can't even count how many times I've had people blow it out as I'm walking through the center, and I think we need to take a step back and say, how do we control where people smoke? That's the bigger question here, not where we're going to say, hey, this green bench over here in the corner, that's a pot smoking area. No, that's not going to work. I think the bigger question here is, how do we prevent people from smoking where we don't want them to smoke, where there's families and kids? I think that's the bigger question. And personally, I would love to see something proposed where we say, you know what, LaSalle Road, Farmington Ave, busy areas in Elmwood or in Bishop's Corner, Corbin's Corner, there's areas where really people shouldn't be smoking. I find it disgusting. But yeah, I'm all about, if you want to smoke it, you can smoke it all you want. If there's nobody around you, smoke it. I think that's the bigger question here. I think that's why that was included in the bill at the state level. It's because they thought they could somehow dictate where people will smoke.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Wenograd had his hand up, and then I'll go back to you, Mr. Dawes.
We're certainly going to have to deal with it. And one thing in the statute, it does actually make more restrictive tobacco smoking and puts it in the same category as cannabis. And in both cases, it's pushed away from entrance to buildings. In fact, I think most of the center would, under the state rule, be prohibited for either kind of smoking. So I think that will actually help. But again, the designated part of town thing is really if you're trying to ban it more broadly. And I don't think we should be getting into that business. I'll channel David a little bit. It's a legal product, and we should sort of interfere as little as possible. Obviously, we'll have rules, just as we have with alcohol, about locations, and we'll deal with that. But it is what it's going to be, and I think we'll have to live with it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. deHaas, did you have your hand up again?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, Mark, I think we butt heads a little bit on the general issue, but from an ideological perspective on the state putting some kind of ordinance or mandate on a local town, I'm with you 100%. If you want to work with me, I would love to get that out of the state government. The town should not be forced to spend money and have a space designated. It's so ridiculous to me, and I would love to change that in the state government. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Anybody else? Ms. Rodman, your hand is up permanently. Is that it again? You're muted. You're muted again.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
good. I'm good.
That's okay. Just didn't want to leave you out. Okay, let's see. We have one more question, a quick one. Does West Hartford have a labor shortage? And this one will go back to Mr. Zydanowicz.
I specifically can't tell you whether West Hartford has a labor shortage. I can tell you that businesses are closed on Mondays and such, and staff is limited. I have not seen any labor reports where it indicates, I'm not privy to those in West Hartford specifically, but I do know in generally that there's a lot of labor shortages. And the complaint seems to be from the federal unemployment rates that were extended, that people would rather stay home than work. I can't give you numbers. I can't give you percentages. I can just give you conceptions of what is out there. We tried to go out to lunch this past Monday, and 3 places were closed on Monday because that aren't typically closed because of labor shortages. They weren't necessarily in West Hartford, those particular 3, but it just in general shows you what's going on. And I think it's, are you having labor shortages at insurance companies and law firms? I don't think so. But on some of your retail and your food outlets, I think that there is one. But I can't cite any information that would back my statement other than what's in the news on a Connecticut basis and national.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rodman.
So I'd like to speak because I am a small business owner in Blueback Square, and I can tell you firsthand that there is definitely a labor shortage. I am desperate to find quality people that can work for me, and I have 2 job openings now. Talking to other people in the community, because I'm in Blueback, I do talk to all the other business owners in the area, all in West Hartford, all in the center. I'm part of the Blueback retail space as well as the West Hartford Center group, and no one can find people to work. And if they do, they last maybe a week and then they either quit or don't show up. So there's definitely a quality work shortage in West Hartford. And that's from firsthand knowledge.
Thank you. Anybody else have knowledge?
I concur. I have a business on LaSalle Road in West Hartford Center and Park Road, and it's everywhere. But I don't know what we would do as a town council. But yeah, there's definitely a bit of a labor shortage, and there's a ton of people that want to work, but a lot of them aren't qualified. It's difficult right now. It is difficult.
Okay, thank you. All right, if no one else has any comments, I think we're going to go to closing statements. You each have up to 2 minutes for your closing statement. We are reversing the order. Mr. Sarwar, when you are ready, you may begin.
All right, just want to make sure I don't, there we go. All right, so yeah, my name's Aaron Sarwar. I'm a captain in the Connecticut International Guard. I'm a veteran, born and raised here in West Hartford. I'm the product of undocumented immigrants who finally got political refuge or political asylum, families from Afghanistan. So I'm part-time in the National Guard, born and raised here, started with just being in a house with 20 people in it, product of Conard High School. I went to Charter Oak, Sedgwick, and Conard, University of Hartford, did mechanical engineering, never really left my town except for military service. We own small businesses in town. I'm literally always in town. You can find me pretty much throughout the town. I'm probably the most approachable candidate there is. I mean, that you can pretty much find me all over the place. We also have properties in town, apartment buildings. So I have a pretty good grasp of what's going on, what's happening throughout town. And I'm asking for your support. I am the true independent candidate on the ballot. I've never been part of any party. I'm not rebranding myself. I'm a true independent. I'm unaffiliated. You'll find me by myself on that ballot, and I will be nonpartisan, as my signs say. I'm sick of I don't like the partisanship that's been occurring. I want to focus on West Hartford, focus on our existing taxpayer. Want to continue with the village charm. We are a city with the village charm, and that's what it's always been, but we're losing sight of that. We're bringing in tons of big, dense properties, especially in single family neighborhoods. I'm opposed to that. I'm all about our infrastructure, our schools, and safety. We're losing sight of safety. I will support the police. I will support our first responders, and I'm asking for your support. On top of that, I only run with $1,000, so I want to show off everybody else. thank you for your support and counting on you November 2nd.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Mr. Wenograd.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by again thanking WHCI and the League for hosting this event and for all you do to promote democracy. And I'd like to thank the voters of West Hartford for the honor of serving on the West Hartford Town Council for the past 6 years. And once again, ask for your support from me and the rest of the Democratic team. I'm proud to be a Democrat, and I'm proud to be running with Sherry Cantor, Leon Davidoff, Liam Sweeney, Carol Anderson Blanks, and Adrian Billings-Smith. We are a diverse and qualified team that will continue to move West Hartford forward. The past year and a half were some of the most difficult times our town has ever faced, but we all rose together as a community to meet the challenge. Our town responded like few others, handing out masks and food, sending out mobile vaccination units for homebound residents, and creating an online system to serve our residents despite the closure of Town Hall. We were among the first to close down streets for our restaurants, creating a new energy and vibrancy. We are moving forward with new environmental initiatives like increasing pedestrian and bike-friendly streets and enacting our comprehensive clean energy plan. Our town's finances continue to be strong. We made major strides in securing fiscal stability by addressing our underfunded pension. And we did it not by slashing benefits or using gimmicks, but with strong and responsible action. Thank you very much again for everything you all do and for the voters of West Hartford. And again, please vote for all of row A, the Democratic team, on November 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. deHaas, your closing statement, please.
So first off, this goes without saying, thank you so much to the League of Women's Voters. It's been a great experience. I've been in 2 debates now, and it's definitely fun and interesting to be a part of it. So here's what I want to say. America, the United States of America, I really do think that this is the greatest democracy that in human history. Human history. You have to think about that. Human history. But I'm 31 years old. I am so worried about the future of this country. It is right now, the track it's on, we're going to see it fall. We're going to see it fall in like my lifetime. And for a lot of voters out there, you're a little older, so maybe you're not thinking about that. But I'm 31. I'm worried. It's getting very scary. And I think the best thing we could do is to put behind us the partisan politics, these 2 ideologies from the donkeys and elephants. And I respect the individuals. The individuals are great. Come on, guys. I'm trying to work with you all. But the parties are destroying the country. And I think West Hartford has such a fantastic opportunity right now, this election, to show Connecticut and the rest of the country, oh my God, we're going to move on from the parties. We have 6 candidates this year. 6, not 4, not 3, but 6 candidates that are not a donkey or elephant. There's me. There's Aaron, and then there's the Connecticut Party, Roni, Lee, Mark, and Rick. And I think, guys, just vote for us. Let's show Connecticut. I want next year, I want to flip Connecticut from blue to purple, because obviously the blue side and the red side, it's too divisive. A lot of people love each side, but then a lot of people hate each side. So let's get back to purple. Also, keep this in mind, about 13,000 to 14,000 people vote in West Hartford at a local election. There are over 60,000 people in this town. So every taxpayer is not being represented. And it's not that they don't care. And I guarantee you it has to do with this donkey elephant rhetoric and fighting. They don't want to be a part of it. It's silly. I talk to people almost every day, and I tell them I'm not a donkey, I'm not an elephant. They laugh, they smirk, they smile. And I bet you those people don't even vote. Most people don't vote, but they agree. The party politics it's ridiculous. And I think it's done. I think we should move on from it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to Mr. Zydanowicz.
Hi, thanks again, the League of Women Voters and WHCI for your time and the candidates for coming out. I've spent the last 9 years as your elected Board of Ed representative, which was one of my greatest honors to serve the community and seeing my 3 children thrive in our community system, our school system. It's been rewarding both as a parent and a board member. And I want to bring that same passion to the town council. Professionally, I was an owner and 3rd-generation family member and owner of Guida's Dairy. It was one of the largest independent dairies in New England. So I bring that business experience as well. I'm a retired engineer officer of 25 years in the Connecticut Army National Guard. I'm an Iraq War veteran where I earned the Combat Action Badge and the Bronze Star. West Hartford in itself is a vibrant town with a great community. But my philosophy, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, is one of the continuous improvement. We have our challenges like anywhere else, but the best decisions come from respectful discussion and being open to ideas and solutions grown in an environment of different viewpoints. And I'm surprised we didn't talk about this today. No questions were asked, but keeping the community safe has to be a priority. Take, for example, the recent carjacking by gunpoint near Bishop's Corner, somewhere I live near to. Cops call it a catch and release problem. It's often seen as the same juvenile criminals over and over again. To ensure a safer community, we must open dialogue with our state legislators and press them to change the laws that will make our community safer. Allowing juvenile criminals to be released after 6 hours and drawn out court dates is something that needs to be changed. It's essential for a safer community. We also didn't talk much about affordable housing here in West Hartford. And I don't want to just provide affordable housing. I want to make West Hartford affordable. And I want to thank everyone for their support for the last 9 years in my role as a Board of Ed. And I hope that everyone, my record's out there, everyone knows it's very clear for the last 9 years. I hope I can have everyone's support again in November. And if you want a change and you want West Hartford with more voices, vote Row B only. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Rodman.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for having me. I am very proud to represent a Connecticut Party for Town Council. We are committed to focus on 4 main initiatives: quality of life, business development, safety and security, and financial responsibility. We need to act on these initiatives and not just talk, because we're the party that gets things done. Example of what we stand for: combining the Faxon Library and St. Bridget's to create a modern state-of-the-art facility for our kids and seniors. Imagine driving 5 minutes down the road to a community center where there's something for everyone in the community. Also, small business initiatives to entice other communities to shop in our center. Free Wi-Fi in the center and Blueback, community spaces without traffic in our town center, and local companies that can flourish to make West Hartford a shopping destination. I'm a small business owner. I'm in the trenches. I am there every single day in Blueback Square. I see what happens. Utilizing the American Rescue Fund in its entirety with responsibility and thought so we can benefit all of WEHA. Air purification systems for our schools, increasing the police force, and working on our infrastructure, such as the roads and sewer system. We need to meet in the middle, talk to each other, and most importantly, listen. We can act and find solutions to the issues that face our town. I believe myself and my fellow ACP members are the right residents of WEHA at the right time to put these plans into action. I'm offering to volunteer my time from our community. Unlike other candidates that look to seek office in the state, I really wanted to work for town council. My aspirations are to help the town, not to be elected to another office. I have plenty of opportunities to volunteer within my community, PTO president of KP, which I mentioned, which I still am, volunteered on the West Hartford Youth Football League. I volunteer room mom. I have 3 kids. One's at UConn, one's at Arizona State, and one's at KP. I am a West Hartford mom. I'm here all the time. This is what I want to do. And I volunteer. I love to volunteer. I want to volunteer for you on the town council. I want West Hartford to be a place where all generations can be. And I think that a Connecticut Party is the party that's going to do this. West Hartford has been the best place I've ever lived. I've lived all over the country. I'm not from here, but I will never leave here. This is the best place I've ever lived. And I think that my other fellow ACP members will do the same thing, and we will work to make West Hartford the place where you want to live.
Okay, thank you very much. This is going to conclude our program. We want to thank to all the candidates for making this all possible and their flexibility in rescheduling this debate. We hope this debate assists you, the voting public, when you go to the polls this November 2nd. Please exercise your right and your privilege to vote. This year, the League of Women Voters is sponsoring an online voters guide, www.vote411.org. Each candidate will be featured along with a short biography and their answers to a few questions. Additionally, you can go to the Connecticut Secretary of State website or the West Hartford Register to check to see if you are registered and where your polling place will be located. I want to thank West Hartford Interactive again for their technical assistance in putting on this production, and we will say good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.